Jim Crow isn't dead. How modern America still polices black freedom. Imagine walking into a store where every mirror already decided you are a threat. Imagine driving home from work and knowing the most dangerous part of your commute is not the road, but the flashing lights in your rearview mirror. That is not a ghost of the past. That is Jim Crow rewritten in modern language. Welcome to My Blackness 100. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a truth-telling drop from My Blackness 100. If you are tired of sugar-coated history, tired of people pretending racism ended with a signature on paper, then stay with me. Because today, we are pulling the mask off Jim Crow 2.0, and we are doing it in the name of Black excellence, Black power, and Black truth. Jim Crow was never just a sign that said whites only. It was a full-scale operating system built after slavery to keep black people in their place. After the Civil War, emancipation scared the old power structure. If they could no longer own our bodies, they would control our movements, our votes, our wages, our neighborhoods, our very existence. From the 1870s to the 1960s, segregation wrapped itself around nearly every part of black life. Where you could live, where you could work, where you could sit, eat, or send your children to school. It was called separate but equal, but nothing about it was equal. Black schools were starved of funding, textbooks were old, buildings were crumbling, and opportunities were deliberately limited. Poll taxes and literacy tests were designed so you could fail no matter how educated you actually were. If the law could not stop you, terror stepped in. Lynchings were not random explosions of violence, they were messages. Thousands of black men, women, and children were murdered between the 1880s and the mid-1900s, often in public, often photographed, often celebrated by crowds. Newspapers treated those killings like festivals. The message was clear: you do not need justice when fear will do. And yet, our people did not fold. Marchers filled the streets. Students sat in at lunch counters. Organizers knocked every door they could. Rosa refused to move. Freedom riders refused to back down. Leaders like Malcolm and Martin risked and ultimately gave their lives, and everyday people whose names we may never know stood beside them. Their courage forced America to look into its own mirror. The result was the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. For the first time, the law publicly declared that black Americans were equal citizens. But paper is not power. Ink is not transformation. The system changed, but the law did not pack its bags and leave. It adapted. Where mobs with hoods once roamed, uniforms with badges stepped in. Where poll taxes once blocked the ballot, voter ID and election integrity took over, wearing suits instead of white sheets. Same game, new rules. Same goal: protect power by limiting who counts as fully human. Fast forward to the 21st century and look at the names burned into our memory. George Floyd, pinned to the pavement over a suspected counterfeit $20 bill with a knee on his neck for almost 9 minutes. Breonna Taylor, shot in her own home in the middle of the night during a no-knock raid for someone who didn't even live there. Ahmaud Arbery, hunted down while jogging through his neighborhood. Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old child, gunned down within seconds for holding a toy. Eric Garner, choked on a New York sidewalk for selling loose cigarettes, saying, "I can't breathe," 11 times. Different cities, different details, same pattern. The stereotype of the dangerous black body was born in the Jim Crow era to excuse lynching. It lives on today in police reports that start with "suspect resisted arrest," in media narratives that dig up a victim's old mugshot instead of their graduation photo, in juries and prosecutors that hesitate to hold officers accountable. In the early 1900s, sheriffs turned their backs while mobs tortured and killed. In the 2000s and 2010s, officials shrug and say no charges filed, while videos of killings circle the globe. The tools changed from rope to bullets, from torches to legal briefs. The excuses did not. Then, 2020 arrived, and the dam burst. In the middle of a global pandemic, people filled streets from Minneapolis to London, from Accra to Sydney, chanting "Black Lives Matter." This was not only a black cry. Millions of non-black allies joined because the video of George Floyd's last moments made denial impossible. Posters showed Martin and Malcolm, reminding the world that this was not a brand new struggle, but a continuation of unfinished work. Some marched for the first time. Others, elders in the movement, couldn't believe they were still fighting the same battles their parents had fought. Signs read, "Am I next?" That is not a slogan. That is a survival question every black child in America has to ask. But policing is only one face of modern Jim Crow. Another wears a courtroom robe. Mass incarceration is Jim Crow in a three-piece suit. The United States holds about 5% of the world's population, but nearly a quarter of the world's prisoners. Black Americans are locked up at rates that cannot be explained away by crime or bad choices. They're explained by intentional design. In the 1970s, the so-called war on drugs stepped onto the scene. Tough laws were framed as protecting communities, but the target was obvious. A former Nixon advisor later admitted that the administration deliberately tied black people to heroin and the anti-war left to marijuana so they could criminalize both and crush those communities. Did they know they were lying? Yes. Did the strategy work? Absolutely. Federal money poured into police departments that saturated black neighborhoods with raids and arrests for small-scale possession, while drug use in white suburbs and college campuses was treated as a health issue or quietly ignored. Then in the 1980s, the crack versus powder cocaine sentencing nightmare hit. Crack, cheaper and more common in black communities, carried penalties 100 times harsher than powder cocaine, more common in white spaces. 5 grams of crack could send you to federal prison for 5 years. It took 500 grams of powder cocaine to trigger the same sentence. Same drug, different form, wildly different consequences. By the 1990s, in some major cities, more than half of young black men had some kind of criminal record. Families were shattered. Children grew up visiting their fathers behind glass. A whole generation was tagged felon, locked out of jobs, housing, and the right to vote. That is not an accident. That is a caste system. A crime record becomes a modern chains. It follows you into every interview, every rental application, every attempt to rebuild. That is what Michelle Alexander called the new Jim Crow, a second-class citizenship dressed up as law and order. And when you create a permanent underclass, you don't stop at prison. You go after the ballot. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was supposed to slam the door on voter suppression. For decades, it forced states with a history of discrimination to get federal approval before changing their voting rules. That oversight mattered. Then came the Supreme Court decision in Shelby County versus Holder. With one ruling, a key protection was removed. The court said times had changed. Almost instantly, states rushed to implement new voting restrictions, strict ID rules, fewer early voting days, fewer drop boxes, purges of voters' rolls. On paper, the rules didn't say no black voters. In practice, they hit black communities hardest, reducing Sunday voting in states where black churches organized souls to the polls, closing polling locations in black neighborhoods, forcing people to travel further and wait in lines that last hours, demanding specific government IDs that a disproportionate number of black citizens simply don't have, while making it harder and more expensive to get those IDs. This is Jim Crow in a suit and tie. No burning cross, no snarling dogs, just long lines, missing names, and the quiet theft of political power. And still, modern Jim Crow stretches further into our neighborhoods, into our lungs, into our bank accounts, into our schools.
You can drive through almost any American city and quickly see the split. The good side of town, with tree-lined streets, fresh grocery stores, parks, and well-funded schools. Then the neglected side. Crumbling buildings, liquor stores on every corner, distant supermarkets, highways roaring through the middle of neighborhoods, factories and landfills nearby. That layout is not random. Highways were often cut straight through black business districts, wiping out wealth and community life. Pollution-heavy facilities were pushed into black areas because officials knew those communities had less political power to fight back. Redlining took a red pen to majority black neighborhoods and labeled them too risky for home loans. Banks and federal programs denied black families mortgages or charged higher interest, locking them out of the primary way Americans build wealth, home ownership.
Meanwhile, white families bought suburban homes with government-backed loans and built equity that could be passed down to their children. Decades later, the map still tells that story. Formerly redlined areas often remain under-resourced, with lower property values, underfunded schools, and higher poverty. White median household wealth is many times higher than black median household wealth, not because one group works harder, but because one group was systematically given tools and the other was systematically denied them. School segregation, officially illegal, is alive through the back door of geography. Where you live usually decides where you go to school. If neighborhoods are segregated, schools will be too. Many black children attend schools where almost all students are non-white and resources are thin. Class sizes are large, facilities are aging, teachers are underpaid and overworked. Separate and unequal did not disappear. It changed costume. So what do we do with all of this? We do exactly what our ancestors did. Tell the truth, organize, and build power. Because here's the part the system never plans for. Black excellence refuses to die. We are the children of people who survived slave ships, survived chains, survived Jim Crow courts and sheriffs and mobs. We are the proof that you can bury a body, but you cannot bury a people's brilliance. Every protest, every vote, every classroom where black history is taught truthfully, every business we build, every book we write, every podcast, every YouTube channel, every community program that feeds kids and mentors teens and funds our own projects, all of that is black resistance. All of that is black power. Jim Crow is not just about what they do to us. It is also about what we decide to do for ourselves. We can study the system and break it down. We can support black-owned businesses and black organizers. We can challenge voter suppression, fight for fair housing, demand police accountability, mentor the next generation, and make sure our stories never again depend on someone else's permission. The system adapts, but so do we. And our adaptation is fueled by genius, by creativity, by a love for our people that no policy can crush. If this spoke to you, do not let it stop at feelings. Turn it into action. Share this video with someone who still thinks Jim Crow is ancient history. Talk about these issues at your table, in your group chats, at your school, at your job. Support organizations and leaders in your community who are fighting mass incarceration, voter suppression, housing discrimination, and educational inequality. And right now, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a truth-telling drop from My Blackness 100. This channel exists to document our pain, yes, but also to celebrate our power, our intellect, and our unstoppable excellence. They designed a system to break us. Instead, we became the most resilient, creative, and influential people this planet has ever seen. This is not the end of the story. It is the chapter where we decide how the next one is written. You've been watching My Blackness 100. Stay conscious, stay courageous, and above all, stay proud of your blackness. Watch more videos on My Blackness 100.